With our new monthly chapter releases of Digimon Dreamers, 2024 started off with chapter 23, which is the second completely new chapter since the series' move to Digimon.net from Saikyo Jump. Now, this chapter felt fairly short in terms of length, as well as the fact that we didn't have too much dialogue in this chapter itself. However, despite that, we actually had a lot of things going on in the chapter despite its short length and lack of much dialogue at all. So we have another reference to the first Digimon manga, or one of the first Digimon manga, more as the first Digimon manga series, being Digimon V-Tamer. Now, we have Bulkmon grow wings, and this is very reminiscent of Aero V-Dramon's debut in Digimon V-Tamer. This makes sense, of course, because the mangaka is the same, so it's nice to see all these little references, and I've noticed quite a few throughout this series' length, and it is nice to have sort of these homages or Easter eggs to this first manga series for the franchise. And it's a nice little reference, and it's a nice little Easter egg, it's a nice little homage that doesn't really take away from the actual enjoyment if you don't know anything about previous releases. Which is something I do appreciate about basically everything to do with Digimon. You're not really required, for the most part, to watch or read or play anything else in the series, as a lot of the stories are fairly standalone. You do have the connected ones, of course, like V-Tamer itself did have various crossovers with the anime series, and then of course there are connected anime seasons like Adventure with 02 and all the other Digimon Adventure movies and seasons. And then of course there's the Cross Wars ones, which also has another series added onto it, but for the most part, Digimon stories are fairly self-contained, which makes it approachable for newer people to access the franchise. Of course, it is nice to have these Easter eggs throughout various bits of Digimon media, and the best Easter eggs are ones that don't, if you're not familiar with whatever it's referencing, nothing is really lost on you, you don't miss any important detail. To someone who hasn't read V-Tamer, this is just Bulkmon getting some cool wings in this chapter. It looks cool. It's a very dramatic moment where, again, referencing bits from early on in Digimon Dreamers where they talk about how you can kind of just evolve in different ways. You don't necessarily have to follow that linear path completely, and you can kind of evolve different parts of you. So, in this case, we get a power-up of wings, which is pretty cool. And it is something that was unexpected and new, as Bulkmon doesn't have wings, and neither does Boutmon, which is Bulkmon's quote-unquote natural evolution. So it is nice to have that sort of additional surprise from the series, where I just thought, okay, we're just going to go Pulsemon's most linear path, that being Pulsemon to Bulkmon to Boutmon to Kazuchimon, which is what we're already getting in Digimon Seekers. So I'm happy that we're getting something that is a little bit different from something that is also running at the same time, also on Digimon.net, and it's nice to have something a little bit unique and a little bit of a surprise. So that is nice. It was nice to have that. But if you are familiar with V-Tamer, it looks identical to Aero V-Dramon, where it's just V-Dramon, but he has wings. I'm not sure if this form of Bulkmon has a name, or if it will ever have a name. I'm going to just call it Aero Bulkmon. I think that's pretty cool. So we have Aero Bulkmon now, which is kind of cool. It's still it's still the adult form of Bulkmon. It's still an adult form, but it is just a bit of a power-up, like we've seen with things like Applink and Appmon, and of course the card slashes in Digimon Tamers. So that was the first thing I want to talk about this chapter, as, again, it is a pretty nice reference to Digimon V-Tamer. We've previously had, and this was fairly early on in Digimon Dreamers, where we had another human character just kind of pop up I don't think he's popped up since in Digimon Dreamers, and this is just a character called Joe, who is fairly reminiscent of Taichi from V-Tamer. It almost feels like it's meant to be Taichi, or at least it would make just as much sense if it just turned out to be V-Tamer Taichi, but older, with a Wingdramon instead of an Era V-Dramon. So that was kind of nice, but again, because this is a fairly standalone series that's not meant to connect to any other series, it's probably better that it was just a random guy called Joe, rather than being a character from a previous series, because it will mean more to a newer audience. But for me, I almost feel like it was meant to be V-Tamer Taichi at some point, just as a reference, but it would take too much away if you are a new fan or someone who just hasn't read V-Tamer, as V-Tamer wasn't released internationally. Digimon Dreamers is, which is nice, but V-Tamer had a fairly limited release throughout the world. It has been released in other countries, not in English officially, but it did release in other countries, but mainly a fairly limited release. And also, if Digimon Dreamers is trying to attract new fans and the target demographic of children, they're probably not going to read this 25 plus old series from the series. They would rather grab something that's more accessible, that being Digimon Dreamers. V-Tamer is, of course, available on the Kindle on Amazon Japan, so people can dive in from Japan, but it is nice to have something that is so standalone, and that's what Digimon Dreamers is, and that's something that I really appreciate about it. So that is nice. We also have some cute, reference. We get a shot of Ritsu in his bedroom. We have various issues of Psycho Jump and various Digimon books and a Koromon plushie. I just thought that was kind of cute, and it is nice that we get to see these shots of him sitting around surrounded by Psycho Jump, because that's where Digimon Dreamers started in after all. So very, very cute. The last thing I want to mention is that I'm wondering if Digimon Dreamers is going to be wrapping up soon. We, of course, and I will have a video about this, or more information about it, especially with the upcoming update in the next few days, and that is, I'm wondering if Digimon Dreamers, along with Digimon Seekers, are both finishing in April to make room for the upcoming Digimon webcomic, Digimon Liberator, which, again, I'll do a video on this, which will probably release a few days after this one. But Digimon Liberator is effectively just a webcomic that is based on the Digimon card game, or the new card game. So that's, as of recording this, that's all we know really about it. We've seen shots of a few characters and a few Digimon from it, but mainly we don't know much about it as of recording this. Of course, I'll have a What is a Digimon Liberator video coming out after this one, presumably. So I'm fairly certain that it feels like Digimon Dreamers is wrapping up. We're finally looking like we're winning against Phalesmon, unless Phalesmon, and this will probably happen because it's Digimon, will pull out a fantastic form and he'll evolve, and then Volkmon will need to evolve further in order to beat the final Phalesmon. Kind of hoping Joe comes back, now that I've remembered that Joe exists. And, I mean, Joe from Dreamers, not Joe from Digimon Adventure. But hey, Joe from Digimon Adventure, he can come along too. But in any case, those are my thoughts about the various Digimon V-Tamer references that we've had. Again, the nicest and best references are ones that don't take away from the enjoyment for any newer fans or fans that don't get the reference. And basically all my thoughts about this chapter of Digimon Dreamers. Again, I'm enjoying Digimon Dreamers. It's a cute little comedy manga. If you're watching this and you haven't read it, I definitely recommend reading at this point. I've covered every chapter of it so far, back when I was just translating it because we didn't have an official English release. But now that we have an official English release, you can just go to digimon.net and read through it on your own, and it's great. I'm really enjoying it. And presumably I will be reviewing each chapter as they come out, or talking about any specific topics. The last chapter, my video on it didn't do so well, so obviously if these videos don't do well, I won't cover them anymore, but I am just really enjoying talking about it and thinking about it and reading it. So in any case, those are my thoughts on this month's chapter of Digimon Dreamers. Let me know your thoughts, comments, etc., in the comment section below. Like this video for, yes, references that don't ruin it for everyone. And subscribe if you haven't already. If you have subscribed, tell your friends, tell your neighbours, tell your enemies. And of course, I'll see you in the next video. Bye!